Yes, it's a time to remember. A time to remember the great cruise we had aboard Norwegian Cruise Line's the Royal Odyssey, a 750-passenger ship. But you know, it wasn't the ship that made our cruise particularly special for us. It was actually our shipboard companions. I refer to Louise Martin from Los Angeles, California. Dottie Parmalee, also from Los Angeles. And of course our frequent traveling companions, Brother Len and Betty from Seattle, Washington. Now, both Lois and I want to express our appreciation to each of you for making our trip so enjoyable. And now to the itinerary. We left New York City at 8 p.m. on October 29th, which was a Tuesday. And we followed the course shown on this map, arriving at 6:30 a.m. at Nassau in the Bahamas on November 7th. We visited Philadelphia, Baltimore, and then Norfolk, had a day at sea, and then we visited Charleston and Savannah, and then another day at sea, and we arrived at Nassau on November 7th, Thursday. Now, let's show you some highlights of that cruise. Well, you're right. Here we are in New York City. It's the day before the cruise, and Betty and Len and Lois and I are taking a tour around the city. We started at the United Nations building, and this is a 15 by 20 foot stained glass window by Chagall. This is a model of Sputnik 1, which was a gift from the Soviet Union. It's in the lobby. And that's the post office downstairs. Now, behind this statue is a painting entitled Brotherhood. It's by Rufino Tamayo, a gift from Mexico. The statue is a gift from Greece. Oh, there's another view of the Sputnik. And there's Lois. You can see she's got an umbrella. It's a little rainy out. Well, there's a Foucault pendulum, which was a gift from the Netherlands, and it shows the rotation of the Earth. Yeah. We'll have to go see Joe now, huh? Yeah. Our tour bus guide.
Back on the bus.
All right. Well, as you can see, it's still coming down, but I'll tell you, that didn't dampen our enthusiasm. Really some neat statues. Look at this one. This one's from Luxembourg. Now I think it's time to get back on the bus, and we'll let our bus driver, Joe, tell us a few things about the city. He was a neat guy.
That went up into space by the Russians, and that was donated to the United Nations from Russia. Also, there was a statue in the garden over there that from Russia, indicating what you saw on that peace wall, that they shall beat their swords into a plowshare and their spears into a pruning hook, that nation shall not lift up swords against nation, and neither shall they learn war anymore. That's a statue on in the garden there from Russia, indicating a man beating a sword into a plowshare. The gun that you saw on the lawn with the knot tied in the barrel was from Luxembourg for peace. And if you know you twist the knot in the barrel of your gun, you can't fight, so that means you can't kill anybody, so that means That's a peace symbol.
Well, Joe let me out of the bus so I could take a video of the Trump Tower and the building across the street, which he'll tell us about in a moment. Quite interesting. So back to Joe.
Was the Trump Tower. 70 stories Trump Tower. It's where Donald Trump lives. And his wife, his father lives there. Also, Sylvester Stallone, Sophia Loren has an apartment there. Let me see, one of the other guys, Michael Jackson, he just moved in there. He probably is paying about $25 million for his apartment. Also, the king from Saudi Arabia has a whole floor that he gave $11 million in advance before he even started building the building. Now, also the green glass building that you saw right across the street, that was Steuben Glass and Corningware. Makes all your nice glassware. And we are now traveling along Fifth Avenue where all your big major parades come down Fifth Avenue. Most of your major parades will come down Fifth. And also you're looking at a lot of your high fashion designer shop. Now this is a new store here at Disney Store. Warner Brothers was a new store. There's Christian Dior, and that hotel there, St. Regis.
Well, Joe let us out, and we toured the St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is one of the largest churches in the United States, with a seating capacity of 2,400. Since there was a mass going on, we elected not to videotape the inside. From there, we went across the street to Rockefeller Center. We're still on, of course, Fifth Avenue. And the Rockefeller Center houses 24 acres of underground shops. Some nice fountains. And of course, there's the famous statue and an ice skating rink right there in the center. Some little kids were having fun. And at each end of the ice skating rink is a restaurant. Another view looking towards Fifth Avenue, and there, by the way, is Radio City Music Hall down the street there. And here we are, going down the famous Broadway, down in the theater district. Joe told us we could get half-price tickets there if we wanted. Now, Times Square is right there. Doesn't look like it does on New Year's Eve, does it? And now we're in the garment district, and there's a famous statue there, needle and thread. There wasn't too much activity of people rolling around goods. Now we're at 34th Street.
34th is where Macy's got her start. That's where she started. The second store was that little store on the corner, where she made the money for her chain. This is where the Miracle on 34th Street. You all reflect that?
Oh, yeah. And the Empire State Building is
1,250 feet.
Well, we're going to go up in the Empire State Building. It was built in 1931. We're on the elevator now. It takes us to the 86th floor. And there's a view looking down. And it's a view looking towards Central Park. We're now looking north. Now we're looking east. And that tall building there with a spiral on it is the Chrysler Building. That's the East River. And hey, there's somebody up here Look at that. What are you doing up here? He had an oxygen mask on before I took this video. And now we're looking south towards Wall Street and the World Trade Center. Those two tall buildings there are the Trade Center. To the right there is the Statue of Liberty. Can't see it, but it's there. And that's the famous Flatiron building. Hey, who's this next to me up here? Shall we say hello? Yeah. Get some good pictures?
Oh, yes, it is
What a view. Yeah. Well, now we're looking up at the top of the Empire State Building. It's the world's greatest TV tower, 1,454 feet. And it produces signals that go out 4 states. And by the way, now we're looking west, and that ship there is coming out of one of the docks that we'll be coming out of tomorrow. That's the Hudson River in New Jersey. And here we are. That's Wall Street. Took this in a hurry as we passed it. And we're going to go have some lunch.
You got some fruit there. You can take those little containers.
Yeah,
Now this tavern, right in the heart of Lower Manhattan, was one that General George Washington bade farewell to the officers of the Continental Army. It housed the 1st American War Department. Well, we're at Battery Park, and we're getting aboard the ferry to take us to both the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. What a beautiful day. That's the Battery, Lower Manhattan, and those two tall buildings are the World's Trade Center. So let's just enjoy the view, shall we? That's Ellis Island, and you can see its proximity to the Battery and Lower Manhattan. Now the Statue of Liberty is located in Upper New York Bay, and it was presented to the United States by France in 1884 in commemoration of the two countries' alliance during the American Revolution. It's 151 feet high, and it sits on a 156-foot high pedestal. One interesting thing about the statue is the torch. It used to be lighted. Now the lights have been removed and it's painted gold, but it really reflects at night. That's the ferry that takes you to and from Lower Manhattan and both Staten Island and the Statue of Liberty. She's a great symbol for our country, isn't she? All I can say is, God bless America. Now there's Ellis Island, and it, of course, is a symbol of America's immigrant heritage. For more than 6 decades, 1892 to 1954, this depot processed the greatest tide of incoming humanity in the nation's history, some 12 million people. And this is inside the museum area. Lots of artifacts, as you can see, lots of pictures, trunks of people who came over. These are pictures of immigrants, and then as viewed from the opposite direction, the display turns into a flag. Pretty neat, isn't it? Well, you can see there that over 60 million people from throughout the world have come to the United States since 1600. Tremendous. This is the Great Hall. It was once the focal point of the immigrant processing. Here the newcomers underwent questioning and were either given permission to land or denied entry into the country. For the vast majority, it was said that the processing took between 3 and 5 hours. For others, a longer stay meant additional testing, and for an unfortunate 2% exclusion and a return trip home. During peak periods, it was said that they would process as many as 5,000 people each day. Here's some interesting passports. There was a whole wall of these. And I particularly like this particular picture. Look what's there on the horizon, the Statue of Liberty. Well, now here's an ad to get people to come to California. As it says, there's room for millions of immigrants. 43 million acres of government lands untaken. Boy, let's see if you can find them today, huh? There's some of the wages. And this is a view in 1957. That's at the time when they were going to start in to restore it. Actually, just after 1924, it was no longer needed for mass processing, and it became a detention and deportation center. Then it was used as a hospital for wounded servicemen during World War I and II. And then on November 29th, 1954, it closed the island. And it was Lyndon B. Johnson who put it into the care of the National Park Service. That occurred in 1965. By the way, out here in front, there is the Wall of Honor with 420,000 names. We didn't see that. We've got to go back. A wonderful restoration of our heritage. Well, we're now back in Lower Manhattan and actually on Wall Street. Our last stop was to visit the Federal Hall National Memorial. And it was built in 1842 and is on the site of the first U.S. Capitol. And this museum contains material pertaining to George Washington's inauguration, the Bill of Rights, and the old Federal Hall. It even had the first U.S. Treasury. There's our bus, waiting to take us back across the Manhattan Bridge into Brooklyn and on to our hotel, which was the Hilton out at the airport. And there's a view looking out our window the next morning. A beautiful day, and guess what? We turned TV on and the parade was going down Fifth Avenue that we'd been on the day before. And it, of course, was for the Yankees.
It is, as you say, a perfect day.
You know what, Carol? I think even if it rained, it wouldn't have dampened the spirits out here. People are so gung-ho for today's parade and for the Yankees winning. It's been such a shot of adrenaline in the arms of New Yorkers, don't you think?
Unbelievable. Not to mention the tons of toilet paper that's flying through.
All right, there you go,
How was
Carol.
that? How was that?
But Penny, I have a feeling I'm doing the twist. I am
Sort of a combination of jacuzzi and confetti right there. I don't know how they're doing this. What goes down goes back up in New York.
Okay.
So other than the fact that the fans destroyed our microwave truck, how was it out there with the crowds, Michelle?
It was great. I mean, the people are just so classy, so incredibly polite and well-behaved. And it's a magnificent moment.
Well, it's Tuesday afternoon, and it's time to check out of our hotel and get on our way.
We appreciate your taking us to the airport. The airport. Airport?
No, they're not going to the airport.
Are we going on a, you mean we're going on a boat?
Yeah, we're going on a boat.
All right. Well,
my God.
I couldn't see it with my dirty glasses.
I'm glad he's not driving.
I'm going to make him take over the wheel in a minute.
Look at all those good.
That's good.
Well, we shook them up, didn't we?
It's having on the green.
Oh, I think we've...
Beautiful restaurant. It's all glass and globes and gardens.
This, of course, is on the way to the airport, right?
Yeah, this is it. This is the shortcut.
Here we are now.
I really don't know what are the hours anymore. I just happen to look. If I see it, I go through it. If not, go a different way.
And we're going which direction
We're
now?
going west now.
West,
Through
okay.
Central Park. We're going to go on Central Park West.
There somewhere. I don't know why. 90.
90.
90.
Going to 90.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dominic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Home steward.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, we're looking forward to a nice trip.
Yeah.
And thank you for taking care of us.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Enjoy your clothes.
Thank you.
Well, Dominic gave us the cruise news, which tells you everything going on in the day. And of course, it was our day for leaving the port of New York. And one of the great things was there was going to be a narration as we sailed out at 8 p.m., so we'll have to see that. And then there's a welcome aboard party hosted by the cruise director. We'll go to that too at 10:15. Here we are on deck. These were constructed originally in 1935 to accommodate the new ships such as the Queen Mary, the Queen Elizabeth, and the Normandy. The pier that we were tied up at, Pier 90, was the Cunard Line dock, and this is where the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth and the QE2 call home. Till early 1944. These new ships were so large that they had to actually excavate into Manhattan Island to accommodate them rather than extend further out into the river. That's why 12th Avenue takes a little jog inland as it comes past the passenger ship terminal. These piers were time from these piers all the way down to the Battery was where the ocean liners would gather and tie up, sometimes spending 2 or 3 days in between their transatlantic crossings. The Hudson River, or as it is referred to locally here, the North River. Directly behind us, or across the Hudson, is New Jersey, the communities of Hoboken, Weehawken, and Jersey City.
Look at the moon there.
You know what?
New York was one of the first cities to decorate its bridges in this manner with lights in the evening. On a clear night like this, it does resemble a string of pearls stretched across the river.
And over there is Newark, New Jersey. State building because it was named after the state of New York. Its nickname is the Empire State, and it was also named in honor of former Governor Al Smith, who was president of the company that built the Empire State. Incredibly, that structure was constructed in less than 2 years.
The old Waldorf Astoria Hotel used to stand on that site, and that was torn down in the fall of 1929. And the first guests and first visitors to the observatory were able to go up to the top in May of 1931. From ground level up to the observatory on the 86th floor is 1,050 feet. And if you were continued all the way to the top, you'd be 1,250 feet above sea level. At Christmas time, red, white, and blue for the 4th of July. Fall colors of orange and red for Thanksgiving and Halloween. And tonight, the tower is illuminated in white and blue in honor of the World Championship New York Yankees.
Yay!
From 1931 until 1972. And from the turn of the century until the 1980s, although that was the original lighting scheme that the architect had when the building opened in 1930, but they were never turned on.
That's the Chrysler Building.
And for just a little less than a year, the Chrysler Building was the world's tallest until it was eclipsed by the Empire State. That belongs to the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. The Metropolitan Life Tower was inspired by the scale. It used to name it and other uses here along the waterfront.
Ice skating, all different types of sports going on that pier. That's
when the English took control, and the small city was named in honor of the Duke of York of England. The original settlement was not very big, only a few thousand people, and it occupied only the very tip of Manhattan. In fact, the original boundaries of the city are still commemorated today, although most people would not realize it. It was surrounded by water on 3 sides, and a wooden stockade blocked the 4th area to the north. The stockade is no longer there, but the location of where it stood is still known worldwide. This was the original location of Wall Street. Designed by the same architect that did the building that we had seen. Woolworth was known for being very thrifty. Of course, he was the founder. Woolworth building cost $123 million, and he paid for it in cash. One World Trade Center, the one with the radio antenna on top, is also the home of Windows on the World, the famous rooftop restaurant. And next to it, 2 World Trade Center is where there is an observation level, and on the 110th floor is the highest outdoor observation area in the world. Even though the towers appear to be identical, one World Trade Center is 6 feet taller than the other one. At the time that it was built, it was known as the Railway and Iron Exchange. And to show you how much landfill has taken place over the years, at one time, the front door of that building was directly on the Hudson River.
It's interesting to note how many buildings have been torn down from this part of Manhattan. Other than the beautiful West Street building with its lighted top, there are less than a handful of buildings still remaining here from the early days of the skyscraper age. Most of these in the financial district date back from the 20s, 30s, right up until the present day. Now a National Historic Monument from A New Life in the New World. This is where the steerage passengers would have to be processed, go through medical examinations, and be interviewed before they would be allowed to enter the country. From here they would then be taken by ferry across to Lower Manhattan or across to New Jersey, where they would be boarding trains to go to the interior of the country. Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten are all on islands. That's why there are so many tunnels and bridges to link the boroughs together. So we'll have a great view looking up the East River. You'll be seeing the Brooklyn Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, and they are also beautifully illuminated tonight. And now on the starboard side, 76. Although it took longer to build than they thought, and it was not actually unveiled until 10 years later in 1886. It was. The only part that was reached to the elements, and actually they had cut holes in the torch to replace it with colored glass to make it into a lighthouse or a beacon. The original torch was removed and replaced with an exact replica. And there are no longer any holes in the torch. It's covered with 14-karat gold leaf and then illuminated with bright spotlights. At one time you could actually climb up to the little balcony on the torch, but that closed shortly after the statue was completed. So now you can only go as far as the observation area in the crown. Dear to the United States, she has recently been designated a World Heritage Site by the United Nations. So she is now considered one of the most precious sites in the entire world. This is about the and Staten Island, the only one of the 5 boroughs that is not linked directly to Manhattan Island.
It's a Staten Island ferry.
Staten Island is the most rural of the 5 boroughs. You can still get a good deal on real estate here. Have some lovely old...
What do you think of that?
Something, you
That is something.
That is super, super. We're off to a good start. New York. New York, New York.
Just so on the starboard side, you can make up on the horizon.
So you go to the left. 4. Think about. 1, you go to the right. 2, you go to the left. Stop. Roy, and you're glad you're leaving too, right? Okay. We've got a nice gift for you as well. Let's give Roy a nice round of applause. Okay. Now, I don't know, because the one with the big sombrero. Who thinks it was the one with the little sombrero? Okay, well, we're going to find out who is going to win. Which branch of the service were you in? Army. Army, and? Air Force. Air Force. Who thinks the Air Force is going to win? Who thinks the Army's going to win? Who doesn't care? Okay, just like that. Gentlemen, are you ready? Here we go. 1, we go to the right.
when you go to the right. Two, you go to the left. And three, you take your hand. Three, you take your hand. And four, you take a bow. And one, you go to the right. Two, you go to the left. Four, you shake your hand. Five. Let's give both these gentlemen a right round of applause. We've got a bottle of champagne plus a nice mug for them for coming up.
Well, it's Wednesday morning, and today's activities include an emergency boat drill at 9:45, and then we're going to be docking in Philadelphia at 2 p.m. A captain's welcome party this evening, and also a show, Hooray for Hollywood. And then we will not miss the 11:30 Chocoholic Buffet, so we'll show you some of those activities.
Jacket.
They want to advertise.
So you've heard this station. Thank you very much. The gift that we have. I have checked all the stations on the other side, on the side, but your station is the best.
Well, you heard the captain. He said that our emergency lifeboat station was the best. The rest of you didn't get that same comment, did you? Well, it's about 11 a.m. and this is the Delaware Memorial Bridge. On the left side is Delaware, and on the right side is New Jersey. And of course, we're going up the Delaware River. Quite a bit of boat traffic there on the Delaware River. We're to arrive in Philly at 2 o'clock, and then we're going to be taking a tour. And there's our first sight of Philadelphia. What a great historic city. This is a maritime museum right adjacent to where we will be docked. We dock at Penn's Landing. Hey, there they are, waiting to get off. Okay, well, I think it's about time we get off the ship and take that tour.
I had planned, since the sun is shining, is a nice, slow walking tour of some very important sites. Are you all willing to do that? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
The building is and what it represents. The building is the first bank of the United States. And now we got all William Penn stuff out of the way. Now we're going to go into colonial, revolutionary, and constitutional times. And we will spend the rest of our afternoon in those areas. We won't be jumping around very much. The building is there because Alexander Hamilton won an argument.
Our tour guide is talking about Ben Franklin.
No longer. His house, obviously, is no longer here because shortly after his death, his daughter had it torn down. Why? That's a good question. Well, the reason was because they intended to build along both of these perimeters, the east perimeter and the west perimeter, apartment buildings. You know, the first paved streets in the colonies. And that was the design. He redesigned the streetlights in Philadelphia so that they wouldn't cloud up and so that you wouldn't trip over the things that I was going to tell you were in Philadelphia. Not just cut purses, but colonial people kept their own animals and planted their own gardens. Occasionally they would attend a market, one about a block north of here and another about 3 blocks south, but for the most part they grew their own food. So, in this city that now is just beginning to be paved, besides all that mud and stuff, you have sheep and goats and pigs and chickens and cows and horses all running around the city, leaving their stuff, yes, thank you, that's a good word, residue wherever. So one of the things that Dr. Franklin did for us was redesign the street lighting so at night we could actually pick our way through paved streets and a remodeled street light. He also gave us the first paid police department, the first fire department, the first fire insurance department, the first public college in the United States. My school was called the City of Philadelphia, now it's called the University of Pennsylvania, that's right. The first public hospital in the United States, which still is in existence, is called the Pennsylvania Hospital, it's about 2 blocks south of here. The first subscription library in the United States, and because of his interest, and his interests were in science, but they didn't call it science back then, they called it philosophy. He gave us an organization called the American Philosophical Society, which also is still in existence.
Well, this is Franklin Court, and it's just behind where our tour guide was speaking, and it's right there in the area where Benjamin Franklin lived from 1722 until his death in 1790. Those were the buildings on the front. And right across the street is Christ Church, an Episcopal church that was built in 1695. Let's go inside, shall we?
Early Republic attended services here to some degree or another. And I'll give you a specific example of the Declaration of Independence that he signed. 15 of the 56 were members of this church. Most of them attended this church. And 7 of those 15 find their final rest on our burial ground property, either here. It's old. We've just had it here for 252 years in that spot. To give you an example, when Mr. Franklin's daughter was married in this church, so we didn't ask the people across the street what they intended to do with their property. Well, they built a building to catch a view of us. It's only been in the last 20 years we gathered a tree. Now we've had to change the season. And another month from now, that window will look fire red and orange. Consequently, we will look fire red and orange. In the wintertime, when that bare tree with snow on the branches, it was very wintry. And in the spring and summer, it was mirrored back. And those of you from California will know that in Spanish districts, they have bathing sanctuary.
Well, this is one of the cobblestone streets right out there behind the church. Again, this is Christ Church, the steeple. Now listen to what she says about Betsy Ross.
He sewed flags for the Merchant Marine. There are contracts still available showing that she sewed ship's flags. A gentleman in Philadelphia sewed the first flag. And his name was Francis Hopkinson, a man. The story about Betsy and the 5-pointed star didn't happen. I'll tell you what did happen. That's right. That's all in our history book.
So why did they put it out there like it did when it didn't?
Here's what happened. Yeah, I know. You're right. It's all in the history books. But not everything you read in the history books is accurate history, unfortunately. What happened was her grandson made up a story about his grandson. He said when he made up this story that he was told the story by other people. But it was a made-up story. And he published that story, and he read the paper, his findings, in front of a prestigious group. And some of the people believed it, and some of the people did not believe it. However, like many myths, and there are many myths in American history, people chose to believe it. Within a very short period of time, Betsy Ross found her way to the American never sewed a flag. In fact, there was never even a congressional contract to sew a flag, nor was there any specific design for a flag. All George Washington wanted was 13 stars and stripes, or 13 stripes, combination of red and white, and 13 stars on white stars on a blue field. It could have been designed any way at all. There was never a specific design. In fact, from what I've read, probably the very first flag that was designed wasn't even designed here in Philadelphia. It's the one that you may see in history books called the Bennington flag. That may have been the very first one. But there was a gentleman in Philadelphia named Francis Hopkinson, and he did make the first flag.
Well, we're now walking in front of Franklin Court. And by the way, this houses a post office and a working reproduction of a 1785 printing press. And we're on our way to see the Liberty Bell.
Here was right on the money. They said, isn't this a repair job? And it is. This is not a craft. It's a scarf and the repair job used. It's called stock drilling. If you're a metallurgical engineer, you know about it, but otherwise you don't. They went in here with the drill and the file, they widened the cracked area so both sides of the crack would not rub against one another, and they thought they fixed the bell, so they rang it again, and then it has the nerve to crack again. The second crack, that's it. It did it in. Here's the second crack. The P in Philadelphia goes through the word and, through the word the, through the word liberty, and that's it. There was absolutely nothing they could do to repair the bell. But why do they want to keep it? It weighs 2,080 pounds and it can't do what it's supposed to do, ring to gather people together. Well, it is. It's getting people from all over the world, so in a way it's ringing louder than it ever has before, but you can't hear it ring. And people will also ask me, what did it sound like? And we'll never know. But what I want to tell you is why it's called the Liberty Bell and why we have it here today. It's because the inscription at the top, proclaim liberty throughout all the land and to all the inhabitants thereof. That inscription was there from the beginning. It's from the Old Testament of the Bible, and there's debates. Why did they put this inscription on this bell, this biblical verse? All we say here is that a lot of times when bells are made, it's standard procedure to put a biblical verse on a bell, but there's more to it. William Penn founded the colony of Pennsylvania. He was Quaker. He was originally from England. He felt that a lot of people were being persecuted because of their religious beliefs, so he came to Pennsylvania. The King of England owed his father a debt, gave him the land here, and he made it a religious haven. It became a melting pot of people of different religious faiths, and they weren't perfect.
Well, there's a statue of George Washington, which is just in front of Independence Hall. So let's go inside.
The legislature met in the room across the hall, and the governor had his office up on the second floor. So you had all three branches of government meeting in this one building. At the outbreak of the American Revolution, Philadelphia was the largest English-speaking city outside of Great Britain. This building was one of the largest structures in North America. And if you look at a map of the original 13 states, you'll see that Philadelphia is just about in the center. So as the revolution is starting to occur and the colonies are looking for a place to send their delegates to, Philadelphia is the logical choice. It's the largest city with the largest facility, and geographically it's the fairest place to meet. So it's here that the Declaration of Independence was signed and the United States Constitution was signed. Those events both occurred in the room just across the hall. But first I want to tell you about a very symbolic event that occurred in this room during the American Revolution. On the 8th of July of 1776, the very first public reading of the Declaration of Independence occurred in the yard just beyond the tower of this building. It was read by John Nixon. He was a colonel in the Pennsylvania militia. He had 8 of his militiamen stationed in the audience. When he was finished reading the Declaration of Independence, those 8 militiamen came into this courtroom and they climbed up behind the judge's bench. Hanging between those two windows was the coat of arms of Great Britain, the symbol of King George III's royal authority in this building. Those 8 men pried that coat of arms off the wall, dragged it through the streets of Philadelphia so all the good citizens would have a proper chance to abuse it, and then they set it on fire. All this to make a very simple point that King George III and his government no longer held any more power or authority in this building. And of course, desecrating and burning the British coat of arms, certainly that was an act of treason, although fairly minor compared to all the acts of treason that occurred in the room just behind you. So turn around and go across the hall, another ranger will talk to you a little bit about the Declaration of Independence. independence and the United States Constitution.
Norfolk out in Boston. And the Congress in this very room in 75 selected George Washington as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. 1 year later, they came here to declare independence from George III. And Tom Franklin, when the delegates finally signed this document called the Constitution, there was a chair here, this picture of the sun over. And Ben Franklin was swapping with the sun, the chair was rising, or if it was setting. But in the half snow, the sun on the very chair was a rising, and not a setting sun. In other words, America had a great future ahead. And so we remember the two events that happened here, the Declaration of 76 and the Constitution of 1787. Now, before you go, are there any questions here?
Well, as you can see, the Independence Hall is being renovated. They're doing an extremely good job. This is in the hallway outside, and just beautiful molding, very intricate. You wonder how they made it in those days. And look at those stairs. I was particularly taken by this escutcheon under the stair tread. Just fantastic. And the renovation outside. Say, Seal, do you see that clock up there? You know what time it says? 6 something, right? Well, one nice thing, everything in Philadelphia of historical importance is located very close together, so you can walk it. And here goes our group with our leader, and we're going down to Carpenter's Hall. And it was lent by the Carpenters Company of Philadelphia for the First Continental Congress in 1774. We were told inside was a collection of early carpentry tools and chairs used by the Congress. Well, our guide told us about that, and then she told us something else about Paul Revere. You want to hear? Listen to this, if this doesn't shake your faith.
He didn't accept it. Who remembers that famous day and year and the midnight ride of Paul Revere? Do you know that there were 3 people who took that ride? Mr. Preston and Dr. Dawes and Revere. And do you know that the only one that was captured was Revere? The other 2 got through. So how come we remember him? Because Longfellow liked the name for his poem. Anyway, take a good look at the building. You'll notice that there are fire marks at the top of it. The top of the second floor in between the windows. It is a perfect example of mid-Georgian architecture. Georgian meaning architecture that was designed in this country during the time of the first 3 Georgians. One brick on its side. It's called a stretcher for the long one and a header for the short ones. And they leave the headers in the kiln a little bit longer to make it even fancier, and they develop a black glaze on the outside of it. That is not faded? Pardon me? No. No, they're burned longer.
And what did they call that again?
Flemish bond. That's the style of bricklaying.
Well, after a good day touring Philadelphia, we went back aboard the ship. We got ready for the captain's welcome party. And there's Betty and Len. They've just been greeted by the captain. And this is our assistant cruise director, Jill. Very nice gal. And there's Ed, the cruise director.
Excited because this is actually my home city, so it is a thrill to sail into Philadelphia as cruise director.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. On behalf of the Norwegian Cruise Lines, the officers, crew staff and I would like to welcome you aboard the Royal Odyssey. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome our repeated Latitude Club members, and I would like to thank you for cruising with us again. A very warm welcome to our new friends, our first-time Norwegian Cruise Line travelers. On this cruise, ladies and gentlemen, we will show you examples of very warm hospitality, award-winning cuisine, friendly service, and we will make efforts to bring you back over and over for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to promise that we will do everything to make your cruise comfortable and enjoyable. And if there is something special we can do for you, please do not hesitate to let us know. And now I think is the right time to introduce to you the 6 senior officers and department heads, people they're working so hard to make your cruise a successful one. And I would like to start with our staff captain, Captain Magnus Bakken from Norway. Captain Magnus, he is the second in command. He has a lot of responsibilities, including the navigation of the ship, the maintenance, the safety, and the discipline of the crew. Next gentleman is Mr. Kostas Karpodinis, our Chief Radio Officer from Greece. He is responsible for the telecommunications of the ship, and he guarantees very easy and inexpensive telephone calls from your cabins to your homes. And our chief person is Helen Bassett from Wales, Newport. Miss Helen, he is in charge of the persons department, and she is doing a very nice job. She is collecting all the ship's money. And next gentleman is our hotel director, Mr. Sel Hugen from Norway. Mr. Hugen, he is in charge of the entire hotel operations, and also I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that he's working many, many hours every day for your comfort. Next gentleman is our chief steward, Mr. George Tomo from Costa Rica. He is the hotel directors I hired. Also, a gentleman responsible for the service and the cleanliness in your cabins and the public areas by supervising all the cabin stewards. Next gentleman is Mr. Derry, our bar manager from Jamaica. Our bar manager, he guarantees the impeccable service in the bars. And our maitre d', Mr. Umberto Micheletti from Italy. Our maitre d', he is responsible for the impeccable service in the magnificent dining room of the MS Royal Odyssey by supervising all the bus boys and the waiters. And our chef, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ede Klitzater from Germany. The master of the galley and responsible for all these extra calories you will gain on the school. And last but not least, our cruise director, Mr. Ed Wells from Philadelphia, welcome. Our cruise director, he is responsible for the entertainment on board the ship. He is your host and the master of the ceremonies for this cruise. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all these are the ship senior officers and the various department heads. People, they're working so hard for the smooth operation of the ship. And on behalf of the Norwegian Cruise Lines, the officers and I wish you all happiness and enjoy your cruise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Captain. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Bacalios, senior officers and department heads. Let's clap them off. Remember, while you're clapping, you're burning off 5 calories. Looking at my watch, we've got about 10 minutes before the Royal Restaurant will open, so you're more than welcome to make yourselves comfortable here for the next few minutes. Your dining room will open at 8:45. Enjoy your meal tonight, and then we're going to invite everyone back into the Odyssey Lounge tonight at 10:45 for showtime. We have a sensational show tonight. It's the Gina and Ryan Company and Hooray for Hollywood. Thank you. Enjoy your meal. We'll see you back at showtime.
That Got you good.
Well, Louise and Dottie and Betty and Lynn and Lois and I, we went up to that chocoholic extravaganza. Well, look at the chocolate. There's a bear there. Of course, we had our share, and let me tell you, it's all locale. You know, if it's good, it's locale. When we're up there, we seen Dick and Cecilia, and they, of course, were also eating chocolates. Got you, Dick. Well, it's Thursday, October 31st, Halloween. And here it is, about 6:30 a.m., and we're setting sail for Baltimore, Maryland, which is about 101 nautical miles from Philadelphia. We're going to be there until tomorrow night, Friday, depart somewhere around 7:30 p.m. Well, here's one of the last views that we have of Philadelphia. Just a grand city. And the port itself is one of the largest freshwater ports in the world. Of course, it's situated on the Delaware River. And this elegant ship is the Silver Cloud, which is Silver Sea Cruises premium ship. All staterooms are outside. But let me tell you, they had no more fun than we had. Hey, let's go up on the bow with our video camera again and see who's there. I'll bet I know.
My friend, my friend. Yes, Aldo. Yeah, right. You better believe it. Even seen the ship that you... we crossed the Atlantic in 9 miles 10 years ago, right? Yeah, hopefully. About 40-some years ago. Well, boy, that's great.
Well, we always talk about a small world. Well, it really is. Aldo was from Los Gatos, and we had a lot of fun videotaping together. Well, that little 737 is making its landing at Philadelphia International Airport. Hey, it's a great day out there, isn't it? You know, the Delaware River is somewhat polluted, as you can see. It, of course, goes down into the Atlantic, but we're going to take a shortcut today to get to Baltimore. Our route's going to be down the Delaware River. We go past Newcastle. We're going to be turning right here, but look, the Delaware goes all the way down to the Atlantic. But we're going to take this shortcut, which saves somewhere around 300 nautical miles. It goes into the Elk River, and then down the Chesapeake Bay, and then we'll go up into Baltimore. So let's go out and see what's happening on deck, shall we? Through the canal.
Delaware Canal. This particular canal is split into two different zones, I guess you could say. It's 18 miles long. 10 miles belonging to Delaware, and the following 8 miles belonging to Maryland. So it's a split canal area. Originally, this particular canal is not near this wide. We wouldn't be able to pass through it in the olden days. When it was originally built, it actually was only about 100 feet wide or so. It actually had locks in it at that particular time when it was originally built. So this is a newer canal, and we're sailing up at this particular time. We'll have to pass under several bridges as we make our way up the canal, and these particular bridges have 135-foot clearance.
Well, the narrator was saying that due to the height of our ship, we had to lower that mast up there. You can see it lowered, so that we would clear the underside of the bridge. And even then, we only cleared it by, I believe, 7 feet. But we would have hit it if we had not lowered the mast. You can see another vantage point of going under these bridges. Now the larger cruise ships can't do this, of course, because they can't lower their masts and they're too tall. So what they have to do is they go down from Philadelphia, they go down the Delaware River to the Atlantic and sail down by Norfolk, Virginia, and come up to Chesapeake Bay that way. So this saves considerable time for ships, and it's quite a busy waterway. And it's a beautiful cruise down through this canal. We're coming to another one here. This is a railroad bridge. And we've got a different vantage point here. Still looking forward, of course. But we're on the aft deck where the spas are. This canal, the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal, was constructed in 1829, if you can believe it, in colonial times. I frankly didn't even know it existed. This is the railroad bridge. You can see that it's up now. It would lower when a train needed to cross the.
This is a roadway bridge or highway bridge. Again, all the bridges have the same height off of the water, very consistent, 135 feet.
Well, here we come to another bridge, and somehow or another, I really enjoy going underneath bridges. Some people are that way, I guess. Whatever turns you on, right? As you can see, the mast is still tilted. By the way, they say the average depth of the water is 27 feet. Just beautiful. And the countryside along there in Delaware is great also.
Crews here, our current pilot, Bill Rule, will be getting off of the vessel shortly before we get to that particular bridge ahead of us. So if you'd like to say goodbye to him and watch him as he makes his way down the rope ladder off the side of the ship to the pilot boat, he'll be exiting off the starboard side.
Pilot boat. One on.
Well, you have to hand it to that pilot. That's a little precarious getting on a ship like that. The other pilot gets off a little later. This apparently is the pilot that'll take us into Baltimore. And the other one here who apparently lives at Chesapeake City, which is what we're coming into. And you can see it's a big thing, as one of the crew members said. You see these people just travel along and watch us. So we're coming into Chesapeake City. Well, that's the bridge there at Chesapeake City. Again, that's a view of the restaurant there. There was a few people out enjoying the day. It's a little windy. That's what that sound is that you hear when the mic is on, and we're using it right off the video camera. Well, it's about time for our pilot to depart. This is the one that gets off there at Chesapeake City. I think he might give us a wave. I waved at him. Hey, he did it. With a salute from our pilot boat, and by gosh, another wave from the pilot. He's departing to Chesapeake City, which, as I understand it, is just there at the border. We're just now into Maryland. It's so beautiful looking along the shoreline. Understand there's lots of good fishing along here. There's somebody going fishing. And up that canal and up this waterway, there's a lot of shipping too. There goes some coal. Hey, let's see who's out on deck, shall we?
You go, or should I? Yay!
In the background.
In fact, I'll even take a snapshot here. Yeah, I got a snapshot of you. All right. Yeah, you're on vacation. Right.
It's Halloween, remember?
Yeah, it is Halloween.
This is my dressed as a tourist.
Yeah, I wear this mask all the time, though, unfortunately.
Actually, I'm Peggy, and this is Clayton.
Look at that.
Well, with a snapshot of Clayton and Peggy, we decided to go downstairs and look at the photos on the wall. There's brother Len and Betty. There's Lois and myself. There's Clayton and Peggy. And there's Celia and Dick. There's another one of Lois and myself. Hey, another one. And there's Louise and Dorothy. And there's Dottie. And there's the captain and my brother and Betty. And there's the captain and Lois and myself. It looks like we're at the rail. And there's Lois and I. Betty and Lan. And that's a pumpkin. It's Halloween. And it's now down to the dining room for lunch. And our waiter took this.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, right. Got the festival now.
Right. Do you have picture restaurant?
Yeah, press, right. Now press the snapshot.
It's like a picture?
Yeah.
One more time?
Yeah, okay. Now, when you're through...
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Stop. What do you think of that?
Well, with a wave from our waiter, we went on down and did some line dancing. And look, it's the Macarena, I'll bet. Well, it's coming on 4 o'clock, and right straight ahead is the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And over there to the left is the city of Baltimore. And that is Fort Carroll. You can see the gun emplacements there. It's not one of the tourist attractions, as you can see. Well, we were going to turn right here and kind of land in the boonies. Hey, I think there's somebody who's been walking around our ship. Here she comes. Hi, Louise. Well, as I said, we are out in the boonies. And there are the longshoremen ready to tie us up. Well, there goes the line. And there goes one of the ropes. And it looks like he's tied up there too, isn't he? Well, while he ties this up, how about going up to the penthouse and see what's doing up there, shall we?
There we go. It's Halloween, huh? All right, and look at this. Boy,
They're supposed to light up, but they don't.
You're in the spirit.
They get light behind them.
Oh, you photograph nice.
You're going to be sorry because it's going to ruin the camera. What are we going to see? Halloween, and we're having a great time with these lovely people.
Okay, now let me tell you the other night. Okay, I'll show you.
Of course, I got my dark glasses.
Well, as the sun sets over Baltimore, Lois and I are getting ready to go out on this Halloween night and to tour the city. One of the things we're going to do is to go to Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite. But first, here we are atop Federal Hill, which has a beautiful view of the harbor. It was named after the celebration that followed the ratification of the U.S. Constitution in 1788. Well, from there, we went to the Baltimore Streetcar Museum. And we hopped on one of these turn-of-the-century trolleys and rode the 1.5-mile track. Now let's listen to our conductor tell us about it, shall we? shall we?
A little bit about this car, just to give you an idea. This car was supposed to keep people from going away to their automobiles and not riding public transit. In most cities in the United States, it failed in most cases. We got rid of all the streetcar systems, save for a couple. And this was the last car to run in Baltimore when it still had its regular streetcar system. You can still find a couple spots that run these. Point of fact, on the West Coast, you can find them in San Francisco, and up in Boston, you can find them on a line called Mattapan. But these were...
Well, that's the one we were just on. Now we're going to take a ride in this one. And here we go. Look at some of these old
Yeah, we're still there.
Oh, yeah? Whereabouts? Okay, the Scotty's and Mark and everybody they go by, those are mine.
Was used to keep the conductors honest. It was said that before the fare registers came along, the conductor had two pockets, one for the company, one for himself. And he would put a nickel here and put a nickel there. And at the end of the day, if the company was lucky, he walked like this. But it said that a lot of conductors walked along like this. It also facetiously was said that the conductor would take your nickel and he would throw it up in the air. If it stuck to the roof of the car, then it belonged to the company. If it fell on the floor, it went in his pocket.
And now we're off to Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite.
To Westminster Burial Ground in Church. He'll be embarrassed, but I want to introduce Jeff Jerome because he really is the mastermind.
The grave of Edgar Allan Poe on his birthday, January 19th. And between 12 midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning, this person puts 3 red roses and a very expensive bottle of French cognac on the Poe grave. Now, some people suggest that maybe it's a joke or a publicity stunt. So every year, a group of us volunteers spend the night among the dead in the catacombs, hoping to catch a glimpse of this person. And for the past 10 years, we've spotted a man dressed all in black with a white scarf and black hat enter the cemetery and place the tribute on the gravesite. Now, here's the point. It would be very easy for us to open that door, walk out, and confront the person. That's how easy it would be. But we don't want to do that. Why do you think we don't want to identify this man? Right, that's right. It wouldn't be a mystery anymore. And actually, when you think about it, it's none of our business. If this person wanted publicity, he would have come out and said, oh, I'm the one that's doing it. So we respect his privacy. Now, he knows that we're there. He would have to be a complete dunderhead not to know this because of all the publicity we get. But for the past 2 years, he tipped his hat at us. It's right there. Now the media, they always make it sound like we hide behind the tombstones. And we see the guy, and we jump out, and we chase him, but he jumps over the wall. It doesn't happen like that. We make no attempt to identify the person. Now other people have seen this guy. We've had the policemen from the university campus spot the guy. We've had doctors and nurses see this individual. So it's not a joke or a publicity stunt. Someone really is doing this. So when you read about this in the newspaper, keep in mind that the different editors always jazz it up a little bit to make it more mysterious, as if it needs to be more mysterious. But this is the gravesite where he puts the roses and cognac.
What happens to the cognac?
We collect the bottles. We do collect, no, they're half filled. They're half filled. We put them on display at the Poe House. We leave the roses, but we do collect the bottles. They've become collector's items. We've had people come to the Poe House offer us a lot of money for these bottles. But the way we see it, he left them for Poe, so we put them on display at the Poe House. Now this monument to Poe is Poe's second grave. It seems like even in death, poor Poe couldn't stay in one place. He died in 1849 while passing through Baltimore. There are 22 different versions of his death, ranging from diabetic coma to pneumonia to the more recent theory of rabies. So in 1849, he died in Baltimore. They buried him in the back of the cemetery in his grandfather's plot. In 1875, due to complaints from tourists, they moved his body from the back location to this location simply to put him in a more prominent spot in the cemetery. This monument was purchased in part by Baltimore school children. They had a pennies for Poe collection. And even today you can see people put coins on the grave. Now, one more quick story. A long time ago, when Baltimore Rent-A-Tour started these Insomniac tours, they had a Preakness tour. Okay, now I know it. You remember this one. And I told the same story about people putting coins on the Poe grave. Well, this guy came up and put a silver dollar. And I went, wow, you really must be looking for good luck. He says, well, I'm here for the Preakness and I need all the luck I can get. And I said, well, if you win, give us a donation. Everybody went, ha ha. The next day, got a phone call from this guy saying, hey, remember me? I put the silver dollar down. My horse came in. I want to make a donation. So I'm not saying if you put money down, you're going to hit the lottery.
Yeah.
You never know.
I got $1.
Well, yeah, you can put coins down. The green stuff you can put here. We do collect the coins. This evening we had over 1,200 people come here. I think we collected like $10 off of the Poe grave. Coins. So if you want to put coins down, help yourself. But at this point, I would like to turn the tour back over to Linda, your able tour guide.
Ever with thee I wish to roam, dearest, my life is thine. Give me a cottage for my home, and a rich old cypress vine. Removed from the world with its sin and care, and the tattling of many tongues, love alone.
Well, during the poetry reading, we enjoyed a sherry toast to Poe, and then we went in the back of the cemetery and viewed where his original gravesite was. Now, buried at this gravesite is his wife and his mother-in-law, and since his wife was his 13-year-old cousin, his mother-in-law was really his aunt. So they're buried here, along with Poe. And that's his headstone. Now, I gotta tell you, for Halloween, Lois and I will never forget this adventure. And this is the front of the graveyard and the Westminster Hall, which was a Presbyterian church. Well, it was back to the ship, and that's a picture of our busboy. That's Brother Betty, Len, and Lois and I. Another picture of Brother Len and Lois. And that's our waiter. And that's Louise and Dottie. Well, after a good night's sleep, it's Friday, November 1st, and we're, of course, here in Baltimore. We're going to be here until 7:30 tonight. We certainly will enjoy our day. And hey, remember, Len, it says to take your boarding pass with you. When we get back from our tour this morning, we're going to see the Twister. So now let's go on our tour. Our first stop was Fort McHenry, and it's located in Baltimore's Inner Harbor. It was constructed in 1798. During the War of 1812, when the capture of Baltimore was a major British objective, Fort McHenry's resistance to a 25-hour bombardment saved Baltimore from occupation and inspired Francis Scott Key to write our national anthem. Now that's the actual site of the flagpole from which the original 42 by 30 foot battle flag flew. It stretched down to that black mark right there by those guy wires. Now these are the famous ramparts over which our flag flew when Francis Scott Key viewed it. And he was standing on a ship down there right by that bridge. The bridge, of course, wasn't there then. Now these are the barracks. And And this is the type of cannon that was used then. And this is George Armistead, the commander of Fort McHenry, a statue of him.
Small flag. Mary Pickersgill made two flags. One a kind of a small flag and the other 42 by 30, which is essentially the size of this room if it were a rectangle. And so the small flag flew, but as the British began to withdraw and to go downstream towards Norfolk, the small flag went down, the great big flag went up, and it was made big because they wanted it big enough so the British could see it at a distance. Well, somebody said it was like rubbing salt into their wounds, and it certainly was. But not only could the British see this humongous flag, but any American or any British anywhere on the horizon could have seen this huge flag. And Francis Scott Key was 7 miles downstream, and even with the aid of a spyglass, he wasn't going to see the smaller one. So we're pretty sure he saw the great big one.
And then we watched a 15-minute movie, and here are excerpts of it.
Fleet remained off Norfolk, some at anchor, others under steady sail. Only then would T, Skinner, and I return to the American cruise ship to watch the British attack. Early Tuesday morning, while it was still dark, shades advanced to within 2.5 miles of the fort. Intermittent late summer rains began to fall as streaks of lightning flashed across the sky and thunder rolled in the distance. The people of Baltimore were in a panic, and now artillery could be heard as the British fleet sailed up the river. Then, at first light, the British began an intensive bombardment of Fort McHenry, hoping we would panic, evacuate the fort, and leave Baltimore defenseless. Major George Armistead, commander of Fort McHenry, ordered a battery of guns to open fire. With this, British frigates withdrew, and within a few minutes, lay out of reach of the fort's guns. Bombardment continued throughout the day and into the night. Direct hits on the fort killed 4 defenders and wounded 21. When we stood on the ship's deck, we could only see flashes of bombs bursting over the fort. By 4 a.m. on Wednesday the 14th, we had stopped firing. Darkness hung heavy over the harbor, making it impossible for us to see anything. But by 7 a.m., 3 hours later, the British stopped firing. We still couldn't tell what had happened. Then, in the distance, we heard the sound of the fort's morning gun. We saw a giant American flag over the fort. We'd survived the onslaught. The British were leaving. Key, an eloquent writer, attempted to describe that September morning in a short poem. He penciled down the first few lines, expressions of relief and pride in America. None of us knew then that the defense of Fort McHenry would cause the British to leave, or that Key's poem would become a famous reminder of such a great victory.
Now that noise was the drapes to the right of us opening. And as we stood up and turned towards that open window, It was one of the most inspiring things I've ever seen. There it was, in all its glory. Certainly an awe-inspiring sight. Now, just one last thing that we learned, and that was that Key jotted down his notes aboard the true ship on September 14th, and he finished that poem upon his return to Baltimore on the evening of the 16th. And it was first titled Defense of Fort McHenry. The poem was published the next day and was soon being sung to the tune of To Anacreon in Heaven, now known as the Star-Spangled Banner. Well, it's time to get on, and our next stop was to the top of the World Trade Center there in Baltimore to view the city from that vantage point. So let's go, shall we?
Oh, we're looking out the window.
Okay.
And this is this building. And there's that one.
There's the ballpark. The ballpark, huh? Seal, you know the ballpark, right?
Yes.
Now, where do you think Dick is?
Dick? Oh, gosh.
Oh, my God.
Well, while Seal tries to spot Dick from this 27th floor observation deck, we'll just look around. By the way, this is a view looking north. And the population there of the city of Baltimore is 740,000. And they've done quite a cleanup and restoration of the harbor area. It's really nice.
Yeah, we got them all.
Oh, here we go.
We got them all, and I look very good behind my camera. Yeah, I see the red lights on. And what you taking this of, Seal?
I'm taking a picture of Dick in the aquarium.
Now, what's he doing in there right now, do you think?
Well, he's standing in front of some display and reading.
Okay.
I'm positive of that.
Okay.
Well, when we caught up with Dick later on the ship, he told us that the Maritime Museum was really neat. It not only had that USS Torsk, a World War II submarine, but this Chesapeake, a floating lighthouse designed to aid shipping in the bay. From there we went over to Johns Hopkins University, which is a small private liberal arts university founded in 1876 as a graduate research institution. Today, of course, it boasts one of the finest medical schools in the country. And in the administration lobby was this wonderful statue of Jesus Christ. And then, of course, it's time to get back on our ship. Well, as I warned my brother, take Betty and yours boarding pass because you're going to need it to get back on the ship. Well, he did that. But you know what he did when he got on the ship? The wind blew, and it blew it right out of his hands into the water. So let's see what happened.
There's my brother's pass right there in the water.
The other guy looks like he's in chains.
I'm laughing so much I'm jiggling.
Well, as you can see, they escorted him to the purser. Oh boy.
How many people do you have come in with that their pass flew off?
It's happened before. I've seen it happen down in Miami one time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That was 12 years ago, right? Not too many. This was my brother, too.
I got a good friend. I'm not so
Yeah,
sure
right.
whether you're my brother or not. Thanks a lot.
You won't put him in chains, though.
No, we won't.
Well, from here it's a stop at the photo gallery to take a look at the pictures pictures that were taken last night. They're at the Halloween party. And then it was out on the deck. As you can see, it's pretty lonely out here in Baltimore, way out here in the boonies. It's approaching 7:30 p.m. and we're getting ready to set sail for Norfolk, Virginia, which is 175 nautical miles. As you can see, the gangway is still there. Hey, let's see if Brother Lynn and Sister Betty's boarding pass is there. Hey, I don't see it. Well, so much for that. Let's go up to the library, see who's there.
Well, look who's in here. How about that? Well, as you can see, they're all putting their pieces together there. They gonna do it tonight, guys? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. You gonna win tonight? Good. Good.
Well, those smiles tell it all, don't they? They won! Congratulations. And now it's out on deck. By gosh, we've just left the dock. Again, heading for Norfolk, and it's our last view of Baltimore, which is quite a ways in the distance, really. So we'll go to dinner and see a show and see you in the morning. Well, it's 8 a.m. and here we are in Norfolk. Lois and I are going to do a city tour this morning. Betty and Len are going to spend the day out at Williamsburg. When we get back aboard the ship this evening, we're going to go to the 50 and 60 sock hop, see a variety show, and have some dinner. But first, hey, let's take a tour here of Norfolk, which is a 300-year-old port city.
Is one of the busiest ports in the country. And again, we'll tell you a little bit more about this when we get going. And of course, war, from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to World War I and World War II, this, and even the War of 1812 to a lesser degree, this has really been a tremendously important area, primarily because of the port.
Our first stop on the rainy morning was the Chrysler Museum of Art, which has a collection of over 30,000 objects that spans almost 4,000 years of the history of art, and a world-renowned glass collection. And let me tell you, the Tiffany's there were outstanding. From there, we went to visit two old houses right in downtown Norfolk. The first was the Moses Myers House, built in 1792, and is of the early Federal style. And as you can see in the entry hall, the moldings were just exquisite.
Specification: the key turns twice, and the latch underneath makes a third lock. Triple locks, and they still work beautifully.
Well, this is the back of the house, and as you can see, it's all Flemish bond brick. This is the well, and it had a real neat slate roof, as you can see there.
Build a separate kitchen. So this is the kitchen. It was separate from the house. Later generations added it to the house, but it was separate for fire protection and heat control and so on.
Just down the street was the Willoughby Baylor House, built in 1794. We toured the house, and then we headed back to the ship. We passed the General MacArthur Memorial. He's entombed in the rotunda of this memorial. Well, we're back at the harbor, which, as you can see, is located right at downtown Norfolk. It's on the Elizabeth River. We're going to be leaving at 8 p.m. for Charleston, South Carolina, which is 402 nautical miles. See you tomorrow morning. Well, as the cruise news says, it's Sunday, November 3rd, and we are at sea. And today, there's a number of items on the agenda. We're going to play bingo, go to an art auction. Tonight, the Jean Ann Ryan Company is going to present Showstoppers. And then after dinner, we're going to go see this Liars Club. And oh boy, is it something. But first, let's take a walk around the deck, shall we? A little cold and windy out, but it's beautiful walking around the deck. You can tell there's nobody out here, though. Well, here we are on the observation deck, and that's the paddle tennis courts. And that, of course, is to play golf. Hey, and look at this. Here's the singer.
Yeah. Oh, another saving the father. Yeah, right.
Hi, everybody.
We sure enjoyed the show last night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Well, that was Jamie Mitchell Stewart, one of the featured singers. He had a great voice. Now we're on the penthouse deck, looking at some of the spas. There was 3 of them there. Then we dropped down to the promenade deck. Well, you can see there still aren't too many walkers out here. And it's approaching about 5 o'clock now, and the sunset's coming, and we're getting ready for dinner, and then we're going to go to the Liars Club. By the way, the first word was try-on, so let's pick up at that point. Again, the word is try-on.
You hear?
I don't know. Okay, well, first of all, I must start out and say I've been telling you all week, I never lie. I'm just going to tell you right off. Liar! No, really.
They were here last week.
I never lie. But let me tell you, I used to date this guy, and that's not funny, that's real, folks. I did. I used to date this guy, and he actually, I learned this word, he worked in one of those shops, you know when you go and you get one of your family crest plaques made? Well, actually what try-on is, it is the 3-pronged shield that serves as the background of the plaque there. Okay, you know it's kind of in silver and it has 3 prongs and it goes down like that. That's actually what a try-on is, the 3-pronged shield that serves as the background for the family crest. See, look, not one person called me a liar after that.
That's it. That's your answer? Okay, moving right along to Mr. Ed.
Well, mine's not exactly exciting, but I'm the only one that's prepared with a visual. Shall I? Okay. On a regular photography camera like tripod, which the camera would sit on, this particular item right here, this is a music stand, and the base of that is called a try-on. Not a tripod, this is a try-on.
That's right.
I'm the only one with a visual.
Liar. Nose is growing.
Okay, moving right along to Chris. The man hunter.
Actually, the word is not pronounced try-on, it is pronounced tree-on. As you can say, tree-on, and that is what a tree gets when it gets excited. Those PG-13 ratings. No, I was lying to you right then. Did you tell? Now I'm telling you the whole deal. How many of you are familiar with the Bible? Good. Now I am, because I'm Episcopalian. Now, the first book of the Bible would be Genesis, correct? If you read Genesis, you know the story of Adam and Eve, correct?
Yes.
Who were in the garden and they were allowed to eat anything they wanted except for of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, correct. But what did they do? They ate it anyway, didn't it? Eve went right in there, took a big bite of the apple, and when they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they knew that they were what? They realized they were naked. That's why they realized that they were hungry. They realized they were naked. Well, as soon as they realized that, they heard God coming through the garden. Remember? They heard him coming, and they felt bad. So Eve grabbed the nearest tree, grabbed it, said to Adam, took a leaf and said, here, better put this tree on because God is coming here. Come in here, see you later.
All that for that? Stick to comedy.
Please put the tree on. Tree on.
Is that? Go ahead. Is that it? Team number 14. Yeah. Team number 15. Wait. Team number 15, where are you? Chris, come on back, Chris. It was just Chris. Okay, there you have it. Will the panelists? Chris. Will the panelists tell us the truth? Please stand up. By Adam and Eve. They're in shock. Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Here she goes again.
I'm sorry.
Folks, she's an entertainer. Entertainers thrive on applause, particularly when you were wrong and she was right. Chris, it was Chris. Take stage, Chris. Center stage. Standing ovation. It's only a 20-day cruise. Moving right along to our second word. The second word for the evening is, are you ready for this? It is Bodash. B-O-D-A-C-H. Bodash. B-O. Working band. Bodash. We gotta start the proceedings up with Gina.
Okay, once again, I must apologize. Ed made me lie. You did. You told me to put Chris's name in there. Okay, but I'm not lying this time, okay? I am not lying, I promise. Okay. Well, I used to date this guy, and...
Fingers crossed.
Don't need her. Anyway, I learned this word from my boyfriend from a long time ago, of course. But he used to work in a hat store, okay? You know, you go in and you see all the different... What's so funny about a hat store? Okay, actually, how many of you saw the show tonight? You know when the girls came out in those big old hats that had feathers to the other end of the ship? Okay, that is a type of bodash. Actually, a bodash is a hat. It's a large hat with a feather. Now that's just a form of it because it's not really large. Well, it was pretty large in the feather.
It's just as long as large as this story. Exactly.
But anyway, actually, all it is, bodash is a large hat. You saw them in the show tonight. I can go on.
Moving right along to Mr. Bodash. Bodash is what you get after the ship burns up. That's what you get after the ship burns up. That's what you get after the ship burns up. That's pretty funny, isn't it? Maybe not. Okay. Actually, let's go back to medieval days, not the Roman days, but to the medieval days, and I apologize for the first time, but it says here that I'm telling the truth. But back in the medieval days, it was actually the distance between the archer and the target that was called a bodash. That was what they called the distance between the archer and the target. Chris.
Who has been to Mexico? All right, the bodash
is what Bo does when he drinks the water there. I'm going to tell you the truth right now. And you hear me since last time. All right, many years ago in England, many years ago, there was a legend, similar to the Santa Claus legend, but only scarier. Mostly like the Halloween Santa Claus legend, where there was an evil monster. Mothers told their children this at bedtime, so they'd sleep. An evil monster would come down the chimney, grab any children who were bad, and drag them back. Sounded just like Mark. And he would come down, he would take the children, and he would take them back up the chimney. Nobody knows where they went after that, but they never came back. Yes, thank you. Pretty scary. That was the bow dash. He would come down, take the children, take them back up the chimney, no one ever saw them again. That's the whole thing.
Mark. 3 lions to my left. Okay, a bow dash, the term bow dash is just a Cajun term for like a snappy, looking snappy, like a snappy dresser. Like, gee, you sure look bow dash tonight, Ed. It's a Cajun word. That's all it is. I'm not going to make up a big story. That's what it is. There you have it, folks. That's it. Let's have a quick recap. Team 14A. Yeah. Team 14B. Yeah. Right. Folks, gotta help me out here. Please come back. All right, will the panelists telling the truth, please stand up. The panel telling the truth, please. Chimney to catch up mischievous children. Programs. Are we good or what? Okay. The next word is now linophobia. What? Linophobia. Let's start the proceedings with Mr. Ed. First off, I apologize for the first 2 times. We're not voting yet, sir.
Who would you like to vote for me right now?
Yay!
But I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain you. Yes, I will. Let's break the word down. Phobia means fear. So you with me so far? Okay. Blend comes from the word movement, and O is a vowel. So it's the fear of a vowel movement. Don't get out of it. The fear of a vowel movement. I'm sure you dated somebody with that problem. Okay, actually...
Look at, she's got Linda.
Jill! Fix your name! You changed it to Linda!
Well, you wouldn't vote for me, so I figured maybe Linda would help.
Okay, blenophobia, phobia meaning fear. Blen is actually the fear of electrical kitchen appliances, especially the blender, as in to mix. Fear of blenders.
Fear of blender.
Okay, Chris, it's up to you. Bail us out.
It's up to me.
Yes, it is.
Planophobia. Fear of being sucked down your cabin toilet. I have that. I do indeed have that. I lost more luggage. No, that's a big fat lie, because planophobia. You might know people who have this planophobia. If you ever see people who they'll set their wrist alarm clock, plus they'll set another alarm clock in the room, and then they may call the wake-up service and have the alarm clock set. They're nervous about being late. A planophobic is a person who has an abnormal fear of being late.
She can't be right 3 times a day.
No, you never know.
Fear of being late.
Fear of being late. Mark. Could be. Mark. Okay. You all enjoyed the show tonight with the G&M Company, right? And you've enjoyed James Mitchell's show that he did the other night when he opened for Chris. And James has another show coming up later in the cruise.
You be nice, Mark.
There's another G&M show. So planophobia is the fear of another James Mitchell show. Oh my God.
This is Jimmy's last week, so we can get one in. We're going to quit.
Okay, there he goes. I'm wasting quote right now because I lied. But probably some of you checked in your cabin, saw that it hadn't been cleaned for like 6 cruises, and there was slime all over the bathroom. And a planophobic would be out of his mind on that because it is the fear of slime.
Well, as you can see, this is the end of part 1. Have a good intermission, and we'll see you back for part 2.